Today I've got a palette review to share with you guys, and I'm super excited to talk about this. This is one of those type of palettes where I saw it and I knew I needed to have it. That does not happen too often, but this was just so me. So I've been using this for the past around 2 weeks. I've used every one of these shades in here, and at this point I thought I would come on camera and talk to you guys about my thoughts on this palette, who I think it's for, who I think it's not for, pros and cons, the way I do reviews, you guys know. So we'll start with a little bit about what this palette is. This is another of Smashbox's Covershot palettes. This has kind of been a giant series at this point. There are a lot of different little cover shots to choose from. They all retail for $29, and what's so fun about all of these palettes is you can kind of pick whatever color story you're interested in, and then you have this really tiny, perfect for traveling or taking anywhere with you palette. It's great for on the go, and you didn't have to spend a ton of money in order to create a fun look. And just so you know, here's a size comparison of these up against the Naked Heat. You can see these are really tiny. I think sometimes people are surprised by that, but in my experience, they last a long time. As far as this particular one, this is actually a Sephora exclusive, although you can get this off the Smashbox website, which I think just started a referral program. I saw something about refer a friend and give them 10 off 50. I'll link that below if I can find it, but I did buy this through the Smashbox website rather than Sephora. And what you get in this palette is 4 of these kind of bright, fun colors. You get a purple, a pink, kind of a purple pink, blue, green, and then you get 4 neutrals. But worth mentioning, because this surprised me, the weight on this palette is only 0.17 ounces, which makes it a bit smaller than the past Covershot palettes. This one here, the Bold, is 0.21 ounces, so is my Ablaze palette. And again, this one is 0.17 ounces. Now, all things considered, that's not a terribly small palette. I really do find these last a long time. And to give you a little bit more comparison with the Modern Renaissance, which looks much bigger, this is 0.28 ounces, and again, this is 0.17. If you really want to get more bang for your buck, Naked Heat is 0.6 ounces, and to give you a really good little option, the Huda Beauty Electric Obsessions or any of the Obsessions palettes, these are all 0.45 ounces for $27. So in all fairness, even though I enjoy this palette, in all truth, these are a better value. Just gonna tell you like it is. This one still stands out though, because this is a very glittery palette. There isn't anything from Huda that's like this, and in fact the only palette in my collection that is similar to this is going to be the Urban Decay Moondust palette, and they're still quite different. When you look at these side by side, there are some comparisons, but I find that as a whole, the Urban Decay Moondust, which advertises itself as a topper, is a topper, whereas these can really be built up to be complete eyeshadows. And I'm going to put these swatches in the corner so you can see them more clearly, since I don't yet have a better camera for zooming. Hopefully that works. But you can see that this one has, the one from Moondust kind of has a little bit more of this almost sheer look to it. The glitters in it are not green, but rather they are blue, whereas the Smashbox one is a green, somewhat shimmer base, and then the glitter in it is green. So you get this really, really intense green, bam, in your face glitter with the Smashbox palette. Now the way Smashbox advertises to use this palette is to use your fingers, which I'm going to tell you now, in some truth, it does stain your fingers, so know that in advance. But I figured that I would swatch it up against the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Palette Original, which also has that same idea, dig your fingers in, get a bunch of color payoff, and you can see that the difference is still really quite profound. The Huda palette it's really just a very intense shimmer, where again this one is glitter. Rather than spend a ton of time talking about these swatches that I don't even know how I would turn to show you, I'm going to put these up and tell you about my favorite color combinations using this. So I really love the green in here. As I showed you earlier, I think that is an absolutely stunning color. I really enjoyed using the pink and the purple together to make a look, and that's what ended up being the basis for today. Is I had done a halo eye using this light pink color in the center, and then this darker, kind of a pinkish purple magenta, and then using this around the edges in a halo eye fashion, and I loved that look. It was beautiful. I surprisingly really like this dark color. Initially, I didn't. Initially, I thought it was just kind of, wow, a smoky eye with glitter. However, I realized that is stunning if you add that to any of these bright colors right at the outer edge of your eye. It deepens it up and just gives it a beautiful gradient. So it turns out I love that. I'm not mad at it for the fact that this palette put more of these two shades in it because I like both of them. They're both good colors. I really thought I was just going to be bored with the golds that are in here, but I also really like combining these two. You can probably see they look really quite similar until you see them swatched side by side. And what I like to do is put this one more towards the center of my eye and then this one more towards the outside of my eye. It's really impressive that I think the difference here is the base color of this gold right here is kind of almost this slight rosy brown, whereas the other one is just a basic gold under base color. So those two complement each other really nicely, and if you're ever looking for that super intense gold, you have it in here. The look that I chose for this video is kind of the result of spending a lot of time playing with this palette because I've come to realize that for as pigmented as the blue looks in the swatch, for some reason that one applies the most like a topper out of all of these shades. So what I did is I started with that in my inner corner. I put the pink, the bright pink, in the center of my eye and then put the deep purple on the outside. And then I went back in with the blue with a brush, because when you use a brush with these, it amplifies that topper effect rather than the intensity of the color. And it works really nicely for creating this gorgeous gradient. I'm really, really happy with today's look. I kind of love it. You can probably tell I got really into it today. I think it's really important to be realistic about usage with a palette like this, because this is the kind of palette where if you're using it even just slightly incorrectly, it won't work the same way. And I kind of hate to say that. I hate to say that there's a right and a wrong way to use this, but there kind of is, and then it also kind of depends on what your goal is. So with this particular palette, the recommended use, as I did say earlier, is to use your fingers. Now, not everybody likes doing that, and I completely understand. After putting some acrylic nails on last week, if you have nails, it is not fun to try to dig your fingers into eyeshadow. I suddenly get it. That really is going to be the optimal way to use these. Now you can use a brush with this palette, but it's going to affect the intensity of it so that you end up getting more of a topper finish, and I'll put that swatch up too. And another thing is that I've noticed that when you go to apply any of this type of shadow, if you are using your finger and you are swiping it on, you get really good pigmentation. However, if you try to pat it, it's just not quite the same effect. I don't really know why this is, but you need to actually swipe it, or again, you end up with that really light pigmentation. But again, that could be something you're going for, and in that case, it's nice to have a wide variety of ways to use this palette. Now, in terms of actually using it, a huge compliment to this palette is that I was able to use it without any primer whatsoever. I was amazed by that. I could not believe that I was just putting direct pigment onto my eyelids and it looked beautiful and stunning. Amazing. There's a con with that though, and that is using a primer seems to make the glitter, I guess, adhere to your skin better. If you don't use a primer, it'll look pretty, but it's gonna flake during the day. At this point, I've used this with the Urban Decay Primer Potion, the Too Faced Shadow Insurance, and my Bare Minerals new favorite that I used today, the Gen Nude Eyeshadow Primer. And all of those work, and I think what's really impressive is how long these last. This does not have that problem of being an eyeshadow that goes on and just kind of disappears throughout the day. You apply this, it's going to be bold 12 hours later. Now you may lose some of the glitter, but that's a lifestyle choice that you embrace by allowing glitter to enter into your life. So overall, it's a very fun, bright, playful, affordable, perfect for travel palette. But I don't think it's going to be for everybody because I think it's going to be too intense for some people. And I also think that some people are probably going to prefer to save that $29 for something where you get a bit more for your buck. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, YouTube.